Hi everyone. Day 3. We're going to be talking about how to communicate and connect. And we've been talking in the other past 2 days about the principles. Today we're going to dive into some of the practices. Hello everyone. BJ Stevens here, and you're at Finding Goosebump Moments. Before I begin, I want to thank everyone for all your kind and generous comments about this training. I really do appreciate it. That lets me know that you're interested, and it lets me know that you're willing to step outside the box, be a little open-minded, and learn. If you're a follower of mine, you know my ground rule is you are always a lifelong learner until the day you're put into the ground. Just because you've completed a formal education doesn't mean your education stops. Personal development, growth, becoming more self-aware, becoming more connected, more knowledgeable, and more experienced about everything you do in life is so important to you and your growth, not only personally, but it applies all across everything you do in life. So let's jump into this today. Day 3, how to communicate and connect through practices. Now, I can tell you, I probably could do 4 hours on this topic alone, but I'm not going to bore you with that. This will probably be about 30 minutes, so heads up for people who don't like to watch a long video. But shame on you for watching 2 or 3 minutes and scrolling. That's not how you learn. You can plug this in while you're doing dishes or taking a bath or driving in your car. Don't ever miss an opportunity to connect to, I'm going to use what Zig used to say, is your automobile university. Most of you like Audible books. Why aren't you taking 30 minutes to watch a video? Sometimes I think you're using that "I don't have time" excuse way too much. If it's important to you, you need to find time to do it. Okay. The first rule in communication, it's actually the practice above all else that will always open the door to connecting with others, is you have to look for common ground. If you don't have any shared values or similarities, you're not going to connect with people. Now, this is going to apply whether you are resolving a conflict, whether you're trying to speak to your spouse or your children, or you're teaching your child something, whether you're negotiating a deal, or you're selling a product, good, or service, or whether you're writing a book, or whether you're leading a meeting, or wherever. This applies across the board. Now, I want you to understand something here. It's really difficult to find a common ground with others when the only person you're focusing on is you. Step out away from yourself. Get out of your way. All positive relationships and personal business are built on common interests and values. Would you agree with that? I think so. If we have nothing in common and we don't share anything alike, how is that going to be a good relationship? It's not. So let me share 4 things that John Maxwell believes that are the top 4 barriers to finding common ground. These are things you should stop doing. These can be found in his book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect, which is where some of this information I'm sharing with you comes from, but most of it is based on my 35 years of teaching communication, of teaching presentation skills, of teaching how to connect with people. That's what I've done. That's been my specialty for all those years. So mixed with what John Maxwell says here, and I agree with these. So let's get into them. The 4 barriers, common barriers everybody has at one point or another, is an assumption, arrogance, indifference, and control. And we're going to spend the rest of this training focusing on those 4 things. All right, here we go. Assumption, number 1. That means I already know what others know, feel, and want. I already know it. Now, there's a gentleman out there by the name of Jerry Ballard, and I'm going to quote Jerry. He says, all miscommunications are the result of differing assumptions. Now, we're going to talk about assuming and assumptions a lot here, because it is where 99.9% of the people make a mistake. Don't make assumptions about people. Don't make generalizations about them. Don't walk into a room and say, oh, I've heard about that person. He's not nice. How do you know? You've never talked to them. You've never spoken to them. You've never had a communication with them. So you are basing your opinion on an assumption. Once you place someone neatly in that little box, it becomes very difficult for you to see them in a different light because you've already prejudged them. You've made a judgment call. So stop doing what you're doing and making those generalizations, those predeterminations, those assumptions about somebody, because you could be missing out on someone really fabulous. Every time you see a new person or client, I love this. John Maxwell says, every time you see a new person or a client, or it's somebody you've had very little interaction with and you've already made some kind of a predetermination or an assumption about that person, he says, I want you to stand back and I want you to consider yourself as a tailor. Always take new measurements. I think that's a wonderful quote. In fact, I may even put that in a meme on my Facebook page here later today. How many of you have done that? How many of you have made a predetermination based on somebody's opinion or based on something you've seen and read or heard? That is a barrier you need to stop doing. Stop it. Okay, here's what I know, okay? People make first assumptions based on background, profession, race, gender, age, nationalities, politics, faith. Can you think of any others? That pretty much covers all areas, but that's how we make our determinations, our judgments. And we need to be very, very cautious about doing those things. That is just going to prevent you from making a great connection. Stop assuming based on a quick assumption, a quick judgment. And quit assuming you know the whole story. You don't. No one ever does. There's so many little intricacies about all our lives and our personalities. You don't know everything about that person, so why are you making a snap judgment? When you make that snap judgment, it becomes hard to find any common ground. Now, the second barrier is arrogance. And that's where you say, I don't need to know what others know, feel, or want. Now, you remember yesterday I mentioned that I can walk into a room and I do a quick visual with everybody seated in the room. And I can, without a doubt, at least 3 people. I see them doing this. Now, that is arrogance on that person's part because they're not open-minded. They've spent huge money to come and see me or come into another room and or come to a training or workshop, and they're assuming that I don't know what I'm doing. They're assuming that I don't know anything. They're assuming that because they've got as many years in the business as I do, that they know everything and I can't teach them anything new. That's an arrogance. That's arrogance at its extreme on their part. Now, why would you do that? Why would you pay big, vast amounts of money, not just to hear me, but to hear somebody else? And then you walk into the room and you say, I'm not going to learn a darn thing today. No, can't do it. I know it all. It never ceases to amaze me and, quite frankly, humor me because somebody's already made that predetermination. Somebody has already decided they know more than me. Now, I'm not saying they don't. I am humble and smart enough to know. As I said yesterday, there's a quote. If the smartest person in the room believes they are, you know that old quote, the smartest person, if you find yourself the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I disagree with that. I disagree with that. The smartest person in the room isn't the smartest person because the smarter people are all the people in the room. They're far more smarter than you. And I happen to believe that. So I don't dare assume or pretend that when I get up in front of a group that I'm smarter than them. No. I am, as I told you, a farmer. I am only there to plant a seed. It is not my goal to get them to buy into my words, to get them to follow my practices or my beliefs. My goal is to plant a seed, to get them to see something from a different perspective, or maybe to learn something they have never heard. There was a gentleman on here on day one. I've known him for several months, and I respect the guy. He's highly intelligent, and he's so current on all the things. And I happened to make a quote, and he said, "Wow, I've never heard that before." And he loved the quote. Now, that's the kind of connection I'm talking about. He came in willing to listen, to learn, to gain some new information, and he got it. One quote out of everything. That changed his outlook. That's wonderful. That's what I'm talking about here, guys. Arrogant people seldom meet others on any kind of common ground. Why? It's because they don't make the effort. They believe they shouldn't have to meet people on common ground. They have positioned themselves on a higher plane, on a higher level, on a higher ground, and they don't want to lower their standards. They expect others to rise up and meet them. Wow. And I know you know some people like that. I happen, unfortunately, to know people like that. And how sad is that? We're all on the same plane. All of us. Maybe I know a little more than you, because I've done more, I've read more, I've experienced more, but that doesn't mean that I'm better than you. So when you're trying to connect with people, connect on those similar values, those common interests. That's what you should be working towards. Now, I'm going to give you a quote here. Supreme Court Judge Louis Brandeis observed this: 9/10 of all serious controversies that arise result from misunderstanding, from one man not knowing all the facts, assuming they do, but not knowing all the facts, to which the other man seems important or otherwise simply failing to appreciate the other man's point of view. Appreciating another man's point of view. You don't know it all. You're not the wisest guy in the room, so don't ever come across with an arrogant attitude that you're there to teach others. I could go on and on about that topic. I don't like arrogance, and it really does offend me when I see people behaving in that manner. But it doesn't mean that I won't go and connect with them, that I won't go and try and find things that we have in common or similarities. Values may be different, that's true. But at least I'm going to make an effort to connect with them. Okay, the third thing is indifference. That's the third barrier that you need to be aware of and stop doing. And what that means is, I really don't care to know what other people think or feel or want. Now, again, that kind of borders on the arrogant side. But why would you assume that you don't care about what others think or feel? How many times have you heard somebody said, well, that's what I think, that's how I believe, and I don't care if anybody likes it or not? You are positioning yourself, by saying those kind of things, you're positioning yourself to be standoffish. That is an arrogant attitude, an arrogant position to hold yourself, because why would I want to connect with you if you don't care? Now, a lot of us come across as indifferent today, and I'm telling you guys, that is not how you make a relationship. That's not how you garner attraction to you, your brand, your business, your purpose. It's not how it should be done. Now, I want to give you something that's real funny here, because, I'm a dinosaur. I grew up in the star-studded age of George Carlin. I was a huge fan of George Carlin. In his sarcastic, somewhat warped belief of making us laugh at ourselves, of taking a common issue and pointing out its foibles, its fallacies, its inhumanity, its stupid thinking. I loved that about him. He made us laugh at ourselves. And there is no greater gift on this earth, in my opinion, than to recognize that we're not perfect. But here's what he said. This is funny. Scientists announced today that they found a cure for apathy. However, they also claim no one has the slightest bit of interest in it. I love that. But that can be said today of some people and how they communicate today. Again, here's what I think, feel, and believe, and I don't care what you say. No, you do care. I'm here to tell you, those people who say that are lying. They're lying because they do care. Deep down, they want people to join them, to believe them. We all need that connectivity with each other. So when you hear somebody saying that, no, they're lying. No, they're lying. Or they're not being real. They're just not. They're deluding themselves. Okay. Those indifferent, arrogant people, sometimes in their own self-worth and self-belief, they may not actually feel superior to their listeners, but they certainly don't go out of their way to learn about the other people. You have to put yourself out there to connect, to communicate, to get others to know, like, and trust you, you got to put yourself out there, folks. And if you don't learn to connect, to communicate, to relate, then how in the devil are you going to connect? It's impossible. It's totally impossible. Again, I could do hours on this one. This is crazy. Okay, the fourth one is control. And that's where that person says, I don't want others to know what I know, feel, and want. Now, as a life coach, that's something I deal with just about every client that I come across. It's a secret chamber. I call it that secret chamber. Thank you, Harry Potter. But it is true. It's that secret place that we hide all our really deep fears about ourselves, our insecurities, our unwillingness, our low self-esteem, and lack of knowing how capable we are. It's that place where we don't want anybody to come to. Now, I got to tell you, connection is a two-way street. You want people to connect to you, but how can they connect if you aren't showing your real, your true, your authentic self? And that is so ironic, because we have been taught to guard ourselves based on an experience you've had, or based on mostly it's an experience that you've gone through. Somebody's hurt you, or you placed a lot of trust in somebody and they broke that trust. That's where we form our opinions. That's how we get that emotional disconnect. But I'm telling you here, folks, I also teach how to do oral stories. And one of the biggest misunderstandings that we have been taught or experienced or believe is that I'm going to keep all my secrets. The truth, the reality is, when you expose your mistakes, you expose your vulnerabilities, you share with the world that you have been hurt. Here's the lesson I learned. I trusted somebody. They broke that trust. Here's what I learned. I have gone through terrible medical experiences. Here's what I learned. My spouse dumped me after 25 years and I've got 3 kids and I don't have any skills. Here's what I learned. Guys, exposing your vulnerabilities, speaking that to the world, makes you more relatable. It's totally opposite of what you've been taught or you believe. Totally relatable. Because other people, in a good way and somewhat in a bad way, other people want to know that you're just like them. Oh my God, I lost a child unexpectedly to a severe crime. Nobody knows how I feel. Yeah, they do. Somebody else out there has had that same experience, has gone through all the pain and the heartache and the suffering that you have endured. Somebody has gone through that. So by speaking your authentic self, showing your vulnerability, not being afraid to share with the world where you've come from and what you've gone through, it makes you better to connect. It makes you relatable. And when you do that, then your method of communication just becomes a matter of style. Whether you want to write a book, whether you want to do an oral story in a 20-minute little vignette, or whether you want to go on stage and start talking to people. It doesn't matter what niche. It's the important part is that you get out there and you start connecting with people through whatever form of communication that speaks to you. It just is so important, and it's just something that a lot of people misunderstand. So if you really want to start communicating better, connecting with people, you need to develop some of these practices that we've talked about today. Again, the barriers are the assumptions, the arrogance, the indifference, and the control. Change your mindset. Change your tone of your point of view. Change how you approach people. That's how you get better. Okay? Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how you communicate, connect through your mindset. And that, my friends, is one of my favorite things. I love talking about mindset because I am a huge believer in personal development. I wouldn't be a life coach. I wouldn't be a member of the John Maxwell team. I couldn't have done what I do for 35 years. I couldn't teach a Who Am I DNA course. I couldn't do what I do if I didn't believe in mindset and personal development. So join me tomorrow. If you got benefit out of this training, please comment and share. I would appreciate that. Not because I'm trying to enhance my followship. That's not what I'm doing here. Not at all. What I'm doing is trying to get you to comment whether you enjoyed what I was teaching, you're getting benefit out of it, and you see a way to enhance your life. 2018 is coming up. Time to make a change, folks. And if you only make one small change, that can move you in a huge forward momentum. So, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. And don't forget, before you go to bed tonight, make somebody smile. And that can be as simple as smiling back at somebody, and they will in turn hopefully smile back at you. It's that simple. But do something. Give a compliment. Give something unexpectedly. Do something to make someone smile today. It's the season of giving. Give your heart. And I know you can do it because you have magic. See you tomorrow. Bye.